Hey everybody, Bonehead from the Bonehead Podcast, and welcome to Special Teams Sunday. So every week we get together and we have a look at some of the best unofficial teams in Blood Bowl. So Blood Bowl is a fantastic tabletop game. It's got miniatures, it's also got a board, so it is very expandable. Now Games Workshop have got 27 teams out, the NAF have provided 2 more teams, so there's 29 already. But if you have a look on the internet, it will not take you very long to find some very cool other teams, other ways to play, and that is what we're all about here. So in FUMBBL, which is an online version of Blood Bowl that uses the old rules, so everything in this video is going to be from the 2016 rule set, not the current 2020. For now, they're working on converting it. Some of the rules are out there. I don't think they're quite ready yet, so we'll look at that in the future. But for now, we're kind of looking at some of the best unofficial teams there. And in the FUMBBL Secret League, which you can log on and play right now, there are some very cool teams. So last week, I think we looked at Blood Dragon Vampires, which is a very cool and different take on the vampire team itself. Now, this is back from last edition when they had Bloodlust, sorry. Now we're going to look at another vampire team because there's a good core of vampires, and I think all of them is a really clever alternate take on the vampire roster. Now in 2020, I think the vampire roster is probably the least exciting one out there. It's just missing a little bit of spice. But these rosters have vampires and an unnecessary amount of spice. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the Strigoi vampires today. They are one of the bloodlines from Warhammer Fantasy Battles 6th edition, where the Blood Knights were the armoured warriors. The Strigoi have given in to the bestial version of the vampire, and they are kind of like these half-men beasts. They're like super ghouls mixed with vampires. We've got some cool models to show you, and we've got some cool rules. So let's have a look at Strigoi vampires. Okay, so the Strigoi roster is very different to vampires. So they've got zombies, which we saw, I think, in the Blood Dragon roster. They're 40k a pop, and they are the zombies from the Undead team. And the Necromantic team. They're just zombies, okay? Movement 4, Strength 3, they're fine. Their job is to tackle zones up and stand there and get punched and get back up again. Now, the cool thing about this roster is you've got 6 ghouls. Now, these ghoul runners are straight from Undead rosters as well, okay? So movement 7, dodge, armor 7, or armor 8 plus in the New World. So they are vulnerable, but they do have dodge and they are fast. Now, the ghouls on this roster have the Thrall trait, because the Strigoi vampires have the Bloodlust trait. So on a normal vampire team, you've got the vampires and you've got the thralls. The vampires need to bite the thralls if they fail their Bloodlust roll. On here, we've got Strigoi vampires, and they are going to be eating the ghouls themselves. So it's a really cool dynamic where you've got cheap linemen that are just going to get punched and punched and punched, and up to 6 great players. Okay, ghouls are really good players, but they're also going to be the ones that get eaten if your Strigois lose their stuff, which is really cool. Now, 70k rerolls kind of rounds out and what you expect from a vampire team. Rerolls that were cheaper than that would be a little bit unfair, clearly. Anyway, you get 0 to 4 of these Strigois. They're strength 4. They've got some armor crushing ability. They're backed up by a host of movement 7 dodge pieces, and they've got chaff zombie linemen. So you've got a very interesting take, and you're going to have to manage that bloodlust accordingly. Let's have a look at the positionals. So zombies are zombies. 40k, movement 4, strength 3, edge 3, armor 8, regeneration. So general skills for these guys: kick is good, block is good. Okay, these guys want to be on the line. They want to be in combat with anything at all, because most pieces are going to be more expensive than a zombie lineman. So if you put a zombie next to a big guy, you are netting a huge amount of TVOP. You put a zombie up against an ogre, and you're basically retrieving 4 times the cost of that zombie. And that's why zombies are potentially some of the best underrated players out there. Now, the role of these guys in this team is to do that. Okay, they fill out the ranks. They stand on the line. They get punched. Your main scoring element is going to be a mixture of those. Well, it's going to be the ghouls, really, and your Strigoi is going to be your removal blitzer pieces. But the zombies are going to be so important, and you're going to need to play positioning games with this team brilliantly, because those zombies are basically the punch bag. They've got to be, you've got to space them. You've got to mark your opponents, because you have to protect your ghouls. So these zombies, huge important part. Zombies are great players. It's an interesting take. And then you get 0 to 6 ghouls. So movement 7, strength 3, edge 3, armor 7, dodge and thrall, general and agility. Now, interestingly, ghouls already have dodge, so when it comes to agility skills, not going to need them all that much. But Jump up might be useful. But general, okay, these guys are 1 level up. They are 2 touchdowns away from becoming Blodge. That is fantastic. Get Blodge, then potentially Sidestep, and then you end up with a really interesting and fluid team. They get strength on secondary, not G. Anyway, ignore that. They are vulnerable, okay? If you've played against an undead team, the ghouls are kind of the most soft, squishy part of the team. And where this team has these guys as the thralls, if there's no ghouls, those Strigoi vampires cannot eat anything, okay? They have to have zombies because they are unattractive, bestial, horrific people to be around, so humans don't want to be near them, alright? They don't want to get that vampire curse. They're happy with all the other vampire curses, not this one. So the ghouls who eat the same kind of stuff are the only ones that will be around those Strigoi vampires. So having that army of movement 7 dodgers, it's going to feel like an almost stunty team, okay? It's going to feel like a weird Amazon vampire undead hybrid. Now, the ghouls, sure hands are going to be useful for one of them to be the ball carrier. The rest of them, we're talking block, potentially wrestle. You're going to be blitzing with the Strigoi itself, so these guys need to stay alive and be ready to score. So Blodge is fantastic, and potentially one of them sure hands, and you've got the potential of having a very fast undead team. And then we've got the Strigoi vampires themselves. So general strength, agility for normals with these guys means that they are very flexible, passing on doubles, which is basically standard for vampires. So movement 6, strength 4, agility 3, armor 8. So as far as vampires go, these guys are 100k, so they are, what, 10k cheaper, but they lose that 4th agility point, okay? These guys are just standard, straight agility 3+. Given the fact they also have Bloodlust, it does mean that you want to be running the ball with those ghoul runners, which means these guys get to play the role of potentially your blitzer pieces. So Bloodlust, Claw, Hypnogaze, and Regeneration. So armor 8 with regen is necessary, okay? They're as tough as a zombie. They've got that extra point of strength, which does mean it's going to be harder to successfully block them. Bloodlust means that when you fail that Bloodlust, when they activate, they roll a dice on a 1, they are hungry, and at the end of their activation, they need to bite a thrall piece. So they need to finish their activation next to a ghoul in the old rules. When these transition over to Blood Bowl 2020, they will probably have Animal Savagery, which is going to boost this team, and it means they're going to be able to punch those zombies as well. But for now, this is old school rules, this is pre-snap Blood Bowl. These guys are rolling a 1 and then chomping on a dodge boy. So Claw here. This is the wicked thing about these guys. They don't have Mighty Blow, okay? So they don't have Mighty Blow like the Armoured Boys we looked at last week. They've got Claw. So they start off, and it makes so much sense because Strigoi are big, half vampire bat, half ghoul, half alright, you can't have 3 halves or something, but you know, they're this weird bestial creature, okay? They're like a were-bat. They're like a were-ghoul. They're just that halfway house. And they've got those claws, so it makes sense. And 100k, okay, so you're saving 10k versus a normal Blood Bowl vampire. And you're getting that claw element, so when you play against armored teams, it's going to be more beneficial. General strength, agility, you have got so much potential with every vampire, but these guys, there's a little bit more. You can go straight for turning them into murder boys here. We can go Mighty Blow. Mighty Blow Claw in the old times was a lovely, lovely skill. Mighty Blow, block, Frenzy, dodge. You can end up, if you score enough touchdowns and cause enough casualties, with a blodging Mighty Blow Claw strength 4 piece. I love Frenzy as well. It might be a bad idea, but one of these guys with Frenzy, one of these guys with block, you're going to be really, really well off. Now, you're going to have to balance that Bloodlust. There's no loner here, so rerolls aren't going to help you as well. You're going to have to balance it. Pro might not be bad as well, but they are going to strike. Now, I like them getting Frenzy because I love Ulfwarreners, and these guys become basically super Ulfwarreners with better access and claws if you can get them that extra level up. I love it. I think it's cool. I think it's thematic. Let's have a look at an example roster. Okay, so our example roster here, the starting roster we've built for you is 990. We've got 4 zombies, 6 ghouls, 2 Strigoi, so that's 12 players, and 3 rerolls. Okay, so we haven't maxed out the vampires. We've gone with 2 vampires and 3 rerolls. We have maxed out those ghouls. Now, there's twofold for that. One is because they are good eat-ins for the Strigoi, so that's going to keep them on the pitch. Keeping 100k's worth of strength 4 claw piece on the pitch is a good tactical decision normally. But having 6 movement 7 dodges is going to feel, this team is going to be fast, okay? You've got 4 zombies, 3 for the line, 1 in reserve, so that if they do take out a zombie you can, and you can bench a ghoul if you need to. You can even bench a Strigoi. probably never going to happen. Now 3 rerolls is in part going to take up for the fact that you've got no combat skills, and it will save you from a bloodlust when you really need to make it okay. Now let's not, you know, bury the lead here. The Strigoi vampires with Edge 3 are just fine, okay? They're not Edge 2. They're not mindless beasts, okay? They are still vampires, which means they can still pick up the ball. So in this roster, you've got 4 zombies, and then you've got 8 movement 6 or 7 pieces that either have dodge or strength 4. So this team has got 8 players that can shift and they can punch, alright? This is a really flexible team. As the team develops, zombies getting block is great, zombies getting wrestle is great, and maybe one of them with kick is going to help you just keep that combat close. Ghouls, block, sure hands, we talked about that, and Strigoi vampires, just any skill you want is great. Dodge is great, block is great, wrestle is great if you want to build a specific safety piece. But, you know, mighty blow, block, frenzy, going to be deleting players in that world. With this roster, you've got 3 rerolls already, so the only thing you can do now is save up to max out those vampires. There is one alternate build here, which is you drop a Strigoi, take an extra zombie and an extra reroll, so you've got 12 players still, 1 vampire and 4 rerolls, so over time you can buy the vampires. But I like the idea of having both those Strigoi. That gives you a very reasonable contingent. You've got the Ghouls to flex and support, and you've got 2 heavy hitters there who are mobile, Edge 3, and movement 6 makes them, they can move around, and they're strength 4, so they're going to be running in and 2-dying most people all of the time. And you've got those cheeky little Ghouls to jump in and grab the ball and get out of there when they need to. So it is going to be a tough brew up, but it's going to play very differently from vampires. It feels more fluid. You are going to have to be surgically striking with those Strigoi. It's really a ghoul team with a bunch of cool stuff added to it. I love it. It's a very different way to play vampires, and if you are a Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th edition player, with that Vampire Counts rulebook where you had the different bloodlines, Strigoi, baby. They were probably the least loved of all the vampire factions, but they were very unique, and they're just bestial, and this makes so much sense. So let's talk about models for your Strigoi team. You need some zombies. Where can you get zombies? You can get zombies from anywhere, okay? You can make zombies out of spare players. You just take a drill, you take a knife, you cut them up, you make them dead, you paint them pallid flesh. If you've got spare linemen from random teams, you can just put them together. You can go to Mantic and get some zombies. You can buy a 3D printer and print. There are millions of zombies out there, okay? Zombies anywhere. Or you just get the undead/necro roster. I think that's probably a good place to be. You will need some ghouls, and you will need 6 of these ghouls. Now, you can collect the various undead teams out there, and you'll probably be okay. However, 1 box from the Age of Sigmar ghoul range, I don't know what they're called, flesh eater courts. 1 box, 10 ghouls, job done. Alright, you've got enough players there. You can probably sell the spare ghouls to a local undead player who's thinking, I need a 3rd ghoul. Well, you could be like, well, I need £5. How about £10 for my 2 spare ghouls? Job done. You've made half your money back. Winning, winning. Then you need the Strigoi vampires. Now this is what I love about these kind of rosters. Those Strigoi vampires need to look bestial. They need to look beastly. They need to have claws, and they need to look about strength 4. That's your limit. This is your team. If you want them to look like demons, you can. If you want them to look like gargoyles, you can. Vampires are different. They are magical. This doesn't need to be vampires. This can just be a very potent anything. I don't know. Now this is one of the Flesh Eater Court's heroes. It's probably like £20, so it's a cool model, but this is just here to demonstrate what they can look like, you know, and you just need something with claws that looks like a mega ghoul. Now there is a box from Games Workshop of what is essentially mega ghouls. Have I got a picture? I have. They are Crypt Haunter Courtiers. Now they are big, alright. These guys look more like strength 5 than strength 4, but if you need some stuff like that, you can. But honestly, Reaper Bones, just have a look at some of the D&D models. You're looking for anything kind of were-ish. Alright, you want something halfway between a man and some kind of gribbly beastie with claws. That is it. That's your goal. You can go to town and find some cool stuff here. I went to Mana Bowl Stunty Cup before the apocalypse, and Sean was running he was running a Strigoi secret team from the Stunty League. Stunty League. And he was using the little goblins from the Hobbit box set. as these mini little ghoul things, and it worked really well. So you can go big on your models. You can find some stuff that works. Gargoyles, were creatures, just look for that. You want something that's about the size of a golem or a black orc. It's probably about the right size. Strength 4, baby, and then just beastly. There's a ton of cool models out there, and you can really let your inspiration fly. Anyway, I love this team. It will play very differently than vampires, and if you want to have like a vampire mini league, you've got all these different pieces. Now, if you are an undead player, you've got most of the pieces for this anyway. You'll probably by now have 4 to 6 ghouls, so you only need to find a couple more ghouls. You're gonna have zombies, and this just gives you an excuse to pick up 2, 3, 4 cool bestial vampire models, and then oops, I've got a vampire team. And to be honest with you, if you've just got straight up vampires, you can run the Strigoi roster against some friends or something like this. I recommend these rosters. They're great fun. It's another way to play, and that really is what Special Team Sunday is all about. Anyway, guys, I am going to disappear now. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Let me know what you think of these teams. Let me know what you think of this take on vampires. And yeah, we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy chomping. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.